Mercedes and Hamilton had a weekend to forget in Qatar, and it cannot be more obvious that the seven-time world champion now can't wait for the season to end next week. But with his teammate starting from pole position and fighting for the win while he's struggling to score a single point, is there equivalence in both of the W15? And if not, are we back to the allegations that Mercedes are sabotaging Hamilton after the strange behaviour of the car throughout the race? Hamilton's race started in the worst way possible from the literal first second as he got penalised 10 seconds for a false start procedure. It looks like the new race director isn't messing around when it comes to penalties and following the textbook, as it was obvious that Hamilton will receive a penalty because he apologised to the team immediately. However, he hoped that there is a pace in the car in which he can still fight for points and be competitive like Russell and neutralise that penalty, and it turned out to be all but that. It all started before the formation lap, where Hamilton noticed that the wing his car has compared to Russell is quite different, and when addressing this situation, Hamilton said, "What are you thinking on the wing, Bono? It is quite a lot down compared to the other car." Hamilton has continued to explain about the manoeuvrability of the car and stated that it's in a very poor condition, and when asking his race engineer as to why they are slower than the rest of them, Bono said that it's just a misbalanced car that he's having to drive. We've heard this so many times throughout the past couple of seasons, and then when you hear Hamilton say that he indeed cannot wait for this season to end and brings back the Brazil GP vibes in Qatar, it's safe to assume that things are not going to end well between him and the team. On top of that, there were situations that he couldn't control, such as the tyre puncture from Magnussen's mirror that sparkled through the track by Bottas, something that Sainz has suffered from as well. And to top that off, Hamilton had to serve a drive-through penalty at the ending stages, because when the safety car for the debris on the track happened, the cars had to go through the pit lane, and Hamilton had likely forgotten to click on the pit lane button that limits the speed of the car. And what is hard to accept for Hamilton and the team is that the car was just nowhere to be found. And when talking about the deficit to the front runners, Hamilton received an answer of exactly 1.2 seconds from Bono to something which he replied, "Is the car broken or what? The car is not turning anywhere." This is the same issue that Russell had with his car on the second stint, and the younger Brit reported that the car won't turn. But if it's any easier for the Hamilton fans, Russell was quite angry that on the second pit stop that came after the safety car conditions, his team had mounted the hard tyre yet again, to which Russell was quite furious about. All in all, Mercedes have seemingly failed both of their drivers today, but one of them ended P4 even after a 5-second penalty, while the other one finished P12 with a message that it is a day to forget from his race engineer. When it comes to a 7-time world champion, 6 of which have been won with the team he's currently racing with, it's quite controversial to say the least. And it's not the only statement that Hamilton has had in a negative manner towards his team. Asking Bono as to how slow they are compared to the others, Bono said that the cars ahead of Hamilton are doing mid-25s, which means laps around 1 minute and 25 seconds, to which Hamilton replied, "Mid-25s? That is a second slower." And again, the response wasn't particularly great either. Hamilton was doing 26.5, and the reason for this, according to Bono, was the fact that they were stuck behind the dirty air of Perez ahead of him. But nothing tops off the last penalty that Hamilton received, in which he was told by Bono to serve the penalty. But to this, Hamilton responded, "Retire the car, retire the car." As you can imagine, Bono said that's not possible, but Hamilton has threatened, "I'm switching off when I get in there, mate. I'm switching off." But you could imagine the feelings of Bono as well, as the longtime friend of Hamilton has had enough and said, "That's fine, if you want a 5-second penalty next race, we only need to do one more lap, but drive through." In these messages, you could have easily heard his disappointment when Bono announced his penalty, asking whether or not they could retire the car and just spare him the misery. We haven't heard this version of Hamilton for quite some time now, but considering the sprint race result, it's something that we should have expected if the circumstances were going to turn against the 7-time world champion's quest. Be that as it may, there is only one more race in which these two will share the track together, and as all things stand, there won't be any celebrations because there is nothing to celebrate for. Both Hamilton and Mercedes are in a dead man zone, stuck 4th in the Constructors' Championship and 7th in the Drivers' Championship, so it's likely that he would want to start working on the new season as soon as possible. When talking about this, Hamilton hinted that he can't wait for the season to end as he went on to address the question, are you glad that there is only one more Saturday to go with this car or not? With one word, he replied, indeed. But if we're being objective, this is the car that Russell has managed to put on the front row for the 3rd consecutive race, and after Verstappen's penalty, the Brit started on pole but wasn't able to keep it after turn 1. Be that as it may, there will always be discussions as to whether or not Hamilton and Russell have the same car, because it's a massive question mark for the entire Formula 1 world, including Hamilton himself, who was quite adamant that never in his career he's been slower for half a second compared to his teammate. Ultimately, the car felt great before the race, so the fact that he wasn't able to be anywhere near Russell has provoked some strong words from the 7-time world champion. I am not fast anymore. And this is ultimately what the haters and the naysayers of Hamilton were waiting for. Is this a sign for Ferrari as well, you might ask? We're talking about a very unusual combination between these two sides, and while Hamilton is undoubtedly one of the greatest in the sport, he isn't very good when it comes to calling his own tactics and making his own race. And Ferrari, on the other hand, are not very good at making this easier on their drivers as well. How will this turn out to be? Time will tell. But as of now, the situation is very desperate because we are having an issue understanding what is essentially wrong with Hamilton and Mercedes. And one hint could have been given by Naomi Schiff, who pointed out the finger to the Brackley-based squad. Elaborating on the situation in Mercedes, Schiff said, it's a shame for Hamilton because he's only really got the rest of this weekend and next weekend to seal off a wonderful era with Mercedes. For Hamilton to be feeling so negative at this point is a little bit sad. Maybe because he has decided to go to Ferrari, he's been frozen out of more and more engineering meetings. Maybe this car is slightly being developed more towards George's driving style. Broken relationships, broken status, and maybe even broken self-confidence for Hamilton, who was easily on a quest to win the 8th record-breaking championship with Ferrari. And after this brutal outing with Mercedes, there might be a situation in which he'll feel a lot of pressure on his shoulders and ultimately fail to deliver the results expected from him. Everyone expects him to win in Ferrari, that's out of the question, and it's very obvious that Hamilton is not coming here to retire. However, spells like the one he's currently enduring with Mercedes do have massive potential to hurt his ego, his feelings, and his confidence. And whether we like it or not, that is where we're currently standing. We are where we are. With all this in mind, do you think that Hamilton is absolutely done with Mercedes? And furthermore, do you think that there is a situation in which he'll be able to redeem himself in Ferrari from next year onwards? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in the latest drama revolving around Verstappen and his commitment to Red Bull that could change sooner rather than later, check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.